All right, everyone, we are back. We are back tonight for Pixel Perfect because Ms. Pam East is going to show us something extra, an update. If you took her class, we all fell in love with it. Phone Photography Secret Revealed. Everyone loved it. It's available as a video. Go get it. You'll love it. But tonight, Pam wanted to go over the whole issue with resolution. It's not revolution, it's resolution, but I know people just want to
It's
go, "La, la, la, la."
revolutionary resolution.
Right. We don't want to deal with it, but Pam's going to make it
That's
really easy for everyone to understand as we go on. So there is her class, but I'm going to turn it over now to Miss Pam, who's going to explain it all to you brilliantly as she always does. Also in the chat box, you'll see a handout that you can grab for tonight with a few links and things just about tonight. So take advantage of that. And of course, as always, if you have any questions, just send us an email at support@craftcast.com and we will answer them for you. So thank you, Pam, for spending time to do this and take it away with your
take it
first picture.
away. Take it away. Well, first, I think we just got some examples of. So here's an example of bad photo resolution, and I'm going to be, and then this is an example. What I talked about is before you can do anything with editing or resizing or whatever it needs for your for your needs, you got to get a good picture first.
Right.
And I think the next one's going to
The
show.
next one
You can
is,
just
which
yeah,
you
is
showed us how to get it. This is
yeah,
great. I mean, we
you
love
can
it.
go from that terrible, just a few things will take you from that to this. And this is okay. The resolution is all right, but it's not very exciting. And then this is what's in my class is how to get these kind of really brilliant images.
And I'd like to
Um,
say she does not reshoot it. This is all done with editing, even though that looks like she
well,
shot it on
except
that
for that
background.
first one. That first one I did reshoot because that was a
Okay,
badly shot picture.
right. Okay.
But this one was just editing, photo editing.
And I
And
believe the next one is too, isn't it?
yeah, this is just photo editing where I did get the resolution I needed, but then I wanted to make it a more exciting picture and something that would be more eye-catching, and
And
voila.
so she
And this
did.
is this is what I go through in the whole class, which we were just talking about. But today I'm just going to be talking about photo resolution because this is the question I get more than anything else. I don't understand resolution. I don't understand resolution. They're telling me that I need 300 dpi. How do I get 300 dpi? So I wanted to really dive in and give you a really solid understanding of what all that means.
Right. And it's a separate entity. We don't want to confuse resolution with anything else. Good picture,
Right.
bad picture. It's a
Yeah,
technical thing.
it's this is only about all the little blocks of color that are making up the picture. It's not about the picture itself. So let's talk about image resolution. What is image resolution? So image resolution, the number of dots or pixels that make up an image are the resolution, that each of the dots is a piece of the picture. And each dot can only have one color. And the more dots it has, the higher the resolution, and the less dots it has, the less resolution, because all of the shading and everything is being achieved by these dots. A dot or a pixel, and we're going to use those kind of interchangeably, is just keep coming back to it's just one color, it's just one color, it's just one color. You can't shade a pixel, you can't have two color pixels. It's the definition of a pixel is that one dot of color that's going to make up the image.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And yeah, and so talking about, let's go to the next one. Talking about, you'll hear me say dots, you'll hear me say pixels. And what does that mean? So you'll hear the term DPI or dots per inch, and that is actually a measurement of print resolution. It's actually how many dots of ink can they fit in 1 inch of linear resolution. And high resolution is 300 of those dots in 1 inch. But that is print. That's a print thing. When you're talking about digital resolution, they're going to be talking about pixels per inch or PPI. And you'll see these in some of your apps when you want you to set the resolution, you can it's going to ask you for PPI. And it's important to note that a pixel is a piece of data. It is saying that this piece of the picture is this color. And it's again that one color, right? It's just one color dot. Um, but a pixel doesn't have any physical dimension. And it's not going to have physical dimension until you export it to be printed. Um, so we can say pixels per inch, but it's kind of a misnomer because, as I said, it doesn't really have any dimensions, but it's a piece of information. Functionally, though, we're going to go ahead and talk about PPI and DPI interchangeably because ultimately that's what people are asking for when they ask you for submissions. When you're putting stuff on your website, if you're doing art calls, if you're doing juried shows, they're going to be saying, we want you, even though you're submitting a digital image, they're going to say DPI.
Right,
And
right, right.
so
Yeah.
so we're going to go ahead and use those interchangeably. I just wanted you to know what they meant. And it's that one little piece of color. It's that one datum.
I think they usually say the DPI. You don't always see the PPI in my experience.
I've seen where I see PPI is in things like Photoshop. When
Okay.
I am resizing a photo in Photoshop, it talks about PPI.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
so what you need to know is just translate that in your brain to DPI.
Right.
So,
Well, you have an example right here coming up that I think
right.
helps because we're all visual. We need to see what it
Yeah,
looks
we
like.
need to see. So here's image resolution. So let's talk about that. So PX means pixel. That's just the abbreviation for pixel. And that first image is 2048 by 2048 pixels. And the second one is 400 by 400. And the third one is 100 by 100. And you can see how it gets more and more pixelated as you go along because it just doesn't have as much data. The little squares of color are bigger essentially. And the middle one from this distance, like me sitting here looking at my computer, I don't see a huge amount of difference from 2048 to 400. You can see a lot of difference at 100. That's like a thumbnail or an avatar picture, when they give you those little tiny pictures.
Right,
This is why you can't blow those up
right.
because it doesn't have enough resolution. But if you zoom in, you will see a difference. And the next picture is going to be the same thing, but just zoomed in. So you can start seeing what's going on. And now at the 2048, you can see it's still real crisp and clear at 2048, but it's starting to lose focus at 400.
Yep.
And at 100, it's just blobs of color. And so, that's the difference in how many pixels across those images are. So remember when I said that PPI, pixels per inch, doesn't have an actual size. I made all three of these pictures the same size, but what's happening is the pixels are bigger in the ones that aren't as many pixels across.
And
I
tell
hope that
people why this is. This is a good, clear example of like, oh, it looks fuzzy.
it
And I
looks
work with a
fuzzy.
lot of people, and people say to me, oh, my photo looks fuzzy. I'm like, yes, high res, not low res. 100 is
Right.
considered very low res
Very low res,
because
very
you
low
want
res.
your photos of the things you make to look good no matter
The
where they
more
are.
the more data that you've got, the better.
Yeah.
The you really need to have as many pixels as you can stuff into the picture. And I'll be talking more about that as we go along here.
We're not
But
here to be techie just for the heck of it. We're here because we want our stuff to look good.
this is something, talking about that 100 by 100. Let's say you've got a picture on your phone and it's when you look at your photo gallery, it looks awesome, right? And then you go to blow it up for something and it's like this 100 by 100 and this is what it ends up looking like. So let's move on to the next photo,
And you know
the
what?
next
And let's
slide.
take this question too. I think this is perfect that
Okay.
Valerie had. She said, when you send pictures with your phone, how many pixels or DPIs are there? Because there are a few ways to send them. That's a good question, Valerie.
Well, that's an interesting question. Yeah. if you send them through Facebook, like if you send them by Facebook Messenger, it's going to compress them. So if you're doing something where you need that high resolution, you can email to a point. There's an upper limit on how much you can email. So we tend to use programs like Google Drive or Dropbox or something like that. So you can take the image from your phone, move it to a site where somebody else can download it without any loss of resolution. You can email pictures one at a time, which is fine if they're high res, maybe you two at a time. But if you have to send somebody 10 high resolution photos, email's not going to cut it.
No,
Did that
no.
answer the question?
Does that help,
I hope
Valerie?
that
There's
answered.
a few ways.
Yeah, there's a few
So
ways to do it. I use that. You can use WeTransfer as one,
WeTransfer is
and
great. Yep.
WeTransfer,
And that's free.
Dropbox,
Yeah.
and I use Google Drive. And I mean, there's all these cloud-based systems that you can upload your full resolution photos to. And I'll talk more about what you've got on your phone. So let me come back to that let
Okay.
me
Okay.
come over here and talk about this. This is important. This is important, and I cannot stress this. You cannot increase the quality of your image by increasing the resolution. I get people all the time. They go, "Well, yeah, I have this low res image, but this software I have can make it high resolution." And it's like, you can chop those pixels. Remember, I said a pixel is one color, and you can take that pixel and you can chop it into more pieces. It can be 1 pixel, it can be 4 pixels, it can be 9 pixels, but it's still a block of green, right? And you haven't improved the quality of the image at all. The only thing you have done is increase the size of the file. But when you
Great point.
blow it up, it's going to still look like crap. You have to have the high resolution to start with. You can downsize a picture, you can decrease the size, but you cannot increase. If you have to start with a high quality image and work from there. Increasing the resolution,
It's just putting a
say
number in the
it's
file.
just
It's
putting
not
a
doing,
number
yeah,
in a file.
yeah,
If the art call, you're doing art call, and art call says, well, we want, 1920 by 1920. Great. I'll make my image 1920 by 1920. If it was 400 by 400 to
yeah,
start with, it's still going to look like crap,
yeah.
and you're not going to get in. So that was the important thing, was knowing that you can't increase the quality of
Yeah,
your
that's a
images.
great point. That's a great point. That's a aha
Um,
moment for a lot of people, I think. So, all right. So
so
now you're going to explain
we're
to
going to
us.
define resolutions a little more. So just to understand that, in the industry, in the photo industry, the image industry, 300 dpi and up is considered high res. That's what high res is. 200 to 300 is medium res. Anything under 200 is low res. And so they always say, oh, industry standard is 300 dpi, and I always say, kind of.
Yeah,
And the reason is, well, show the next picture and they'll understand a little better.
I like that
Um,
sort of.
Sort of. So all three of these pictures are 300 dpi. Um, it's only half the equation. You not only have to know how much DPI they want, you also need to know how big do they want the image. Because if I have a 4-inch image at 300 DPI, that means it's 1,200 pixels across. And if for 2 inches across, 300 DPI, I need 600 pixels. 1 inch, that's a 1-inch picture, right? And it's 300 pixels across. I can't blow that up to 4 inches. The minute I go from 1 inch to 2 inches, suddenly instead of 300 DPI, that's become 150 DPI. So you have to know both the DPI that you want and the size of the image that you want. And this is, if you're going to go do a magazine spread and they want to bleed your photo out to the edges, you're going to need something that's going to be able to be blown up to, 8 by 10 and still be 300 DPI. So let's go ahead and go to the next picture.
I think you just taught us all shoot everything high res.
Yes, Always start high. You can go lower. Start high. So here's an example. This was that original picture that was 2048. And if I divide that by 300, I get 6.83. And that means I could print this picture 6 inches, 6.83 inches by 6.83 inches, and it would still be 300 DPI. You just do the math. And this is how this is the size matters thing. Um, you need to know how big they need their picture. If they call you and they say, I need 300 DPI at 4 inches, then I'm going to go 300 by 4. That means I need a picture that's 1200 pixels across.
Let me
So
ask you something, Pam. In your
yeah,
experience, has anyone ever complained that you gave them too high res, too big a file?
kind of.
Okay.
Only if there's a limitation on the call for entry.
Okay.
So if there is a call for entry and they have an upper limit, it's because of how big a file size they can handle. But if I'm just transferring a picture to somebody directly, that they already know they want the picture, I have never ever gotten a complaint that, oh, this is too high.
Yeah.
Anybody asking me for pictures, they know how to make it smaller.
Yeah.
Always send more than um, always send more than they want. I'm going to come back to that question, Linda.
We have
Um,
that coming up, Linda.
yeah, we do have that coming up. So just let's talk about megapixels. Let's talk about how good is your phone. Let's jump over to how good is your phone. What kind of resolution are you getting out of from your phone? Is my phone good enough? So you're going to often hear them talk about, oh, I have an 8 megapixel phone. I have a 12 megapixel phone, whatever. What does that mean? A megapixel is a million pixels. And so if I had a grid that was 1,000 pixels by 1,000 pixels, you multiply those two together, you get a million. 1 million pixels is 1 megapixel. Any phone made after 2012 is at least 8 megapixels or 8 million pixels, which, if you go to the next picture, you're going to see is plenty of resolution to print 8 by 10.
Always good to know. And what's the 15 now? I haven't even checked. What is
I can get I can do 12, 24, or 48 megapixel on
yeah.
that, depending upon how I set it. I set it at 12 because it keeps the file size smaller, and I can print a 12 megapixel picture 11 by 14 and still be 300 DPI. No, I could be printing posters.
Yeah.
So I stick with 12 megapixel because as you get higher, the file sizes get bigger and you're filling up space unnecessarily. I don't need anything higher than 12 megapixels. Um, so stay on this for a minute.
Okay.
One of the other things I wanted to talk about. So any camera made after 2012 um, is going to be taking high resolution pictures, and anything made after about 2017 is going to be about 12 megapixels. So I always tell people get a newer camera, and they're going, oh well, if I can get 8 megapixels with my old camera, maybe I don't need a new. And remember, when I say camera, I'm
You mean
referring to
phone.
your phone.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the camera in your phone. I'm very specific. I'm not talking about DSLRs or anything like that. I'm only talking about phones. Um, so that the what you need to know though is that it isn't only the storage capacity that has improved over time. I can store an 8 megapixel picture, or I can store an 12 megapixel, I can capture a 12 megapixel picture, but the sensors have gotten better. The quality of the image that you're able to get with a phone that was made in 2018, 2019 is so far and away better
Yeah,
than
that's true.
anything from 2012. The sensors are just getting better and better and better, and so you want that new those newer cameras. I would say anything made within the last 5 years is going to have a much better sensor. And again, before we started, somebody was asking me about the Galaxy 23, and the sensors. It's phenomenal. The, it may only be, I may only be catching 12 megapixels, but the quality of those 12 megapixels, the crispness and clearness that the sensor is getting is much better. So you do get a better photo even with the same megapixels if you have a newer phone. So
Yeah.
that was just the point that I wanted to make.
Also, Pam, the new 15, not that I'm plugging whatever,
I
but I do
love my
love it.
15
I do
Pro. I
too.
love my
But
15
you have
Pro.
three lenses. You're not now changing your lens just digitally by zooming in. There's
Yeah,
actually
and
three
there's
lenses.
3 different lenses, and that's important because um, mechanical zoom versus digital zoom. Basically, when you do a digital zoom, you're getting less resolution.
Right,
But when you do a mechanical zoom, I'm filling that whole frame with the close up and I'm not losing the resolution.
right. No,
So
that's pretty genius. Let's just take this quick though. Joshua had a good question. What about an iPad? I don't know off the top of my head the latest on the iPad.
I don't actually know. I don't take pictures with my iPad
Okay.
because it's awkward. I'm trying to do jewelry photography and I'm working in a photo booth. And it's hard enough to work with something this big.
Yeah. We know they're
Trying to
good.
picture something,
Right.
it's
Joshua,
probably
we know
very
they're
good, but
good, but
I
it's,
don't
yeah.
know. I really don't know that answer.
Uh,
Uh,
Wait, let's take one from Valerie. Does the phone in the settings indicate the number of MPs?
yeah, it does.
Oh, it does. Yeah, it does.
Yeah, so
About this phone.
I'm gonna actually get to there.
Okay, we'll get to that. All right.
So let's go ahead and move forward,
We're
on
going to start
ho
a little
we're
video
gonna
here.
do a little video on how to determine the size of your photo. And what have you got? So here I've got an iPhone. The newer phones, all you have to do is swipe up and it's going to give you all this information. So that's 12 megapixels. It says it right there. It's 3024 by 4032 and it's 500 meg. So if you're looking on your desktop at a picture, when you click on it, it should give you some information to the side. If it doesn't, just right click on the photo and go down to properties. And when you click on properties, there'll be a tab at the top that says details. Click on that tab that says details and scroll down. And there you're going to have all the information about your pictures. So,
Genius.
so it's there. Um, and I wouldn't worry. If you could pause for just, oh no, we're
Mm-hmm.
in a good spot. We're in a good spot.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you noticed that picture said 96 DPI on it. It's meaningless. What I saw is it was 1400, which means that I know off the top of my head that I can do a 4.5 inch picture with that.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's what matters, at 300. So the DPI that it assigns is often really meaningless. What you want to look at is the number of pixels themselves. So that, yeah, it did tell me the megapixels. It did tell me, and this will be in any phone. All the phones have the same capability. Um, but I wanted to do an example. And the example I'm going to use is that AMCA, the Alliance of Metal Clay Artists Worldwide, is doing their semi-annual, biannual, every other year they do a exhibition called Superbly Centered. The deadline is December 31st, so you still have a month to get into this show, and it is a fantastic show, and I highly recommend it. Anyway, their submission is on a site called Art Call. And Art Call, this is what I was talking about earlier. Art Call limits the size of the file. And I actually made a mistake on this slide. It should be 1920 pixels, not 2000 pixels. I
Okay.
was I was off. It's 1920, and that's the same as if some of you are familiar with Zapplication, is another submission site that a lot of companies use. Galleries will use Zapplication. If you want to submit work to see if they want to put your work in their gallery, that kind of thing. Zapplication and Art Call are some of the more common ones, and they had the same requirements. It's the longest side, so if
I'm
it's
just going to
not a
say that's really
square,
important. Yeah.
if it's not a square, you got to measure the longer
Right.
side. The longer side is 19 1920 pixels. And that's about a 6.6 or 6.5 inch at 300 DPI. But what I wanted to tell you is when you're doing these submissions, you need to save two copies. You want to save the one that's sized for the submission and the one that's maximum resolution, which is going to be bigger than that, right? I had one out there that was 4,000, over 4,000 on the longest side. It was more than double the size of this. Save that high resolution picture. Save your smaller one at under another name, like you could say art call size, or whatever it is that will make it meaningful for you. Because um, if you get into the show, if it's a calendar, for example, or a catalog or something, they may want a higher resolution picture. They may come back to you and they go, okay, we went through art call, you were selected, and now we want to print it, but we want a higher resolution picture than art call was able to accept. So I know that AMCOD does that, and other
This is a
companies will
good aha
too.
moment. Everyone, listen
Yeah.
up. This is really smart thinking.
So always save it at maximum resolution and save it at whatever the submission size is. Um,
So you don't go into panic when all of a sudden they say, "Oh, we've accepted you," and you go, "Rut row."
yeah, I have to go take a picture again. No,
Yeah.
save that high resolution photo. So this is that's before I move on. The next thing I'm going to talk about is resizing. But before I move on, I'm gonna show you how to resize a picture using Photo Room. Um, but before we do that, are there any resolution questions?
This is a great thing. Pam, do you have any special file naming storing conventions you like?
I'm I should let Allison answer this one because I'm terrible at this. It depends upon where I'm submitting it. I
I will
usually include
say,
my name and
I would say think how you are going to look for it afterwards. What's important to you. I always like to use a date could be important. I like to do what it was, something that how I remember it. And what's really important is putting your underscores in between all those words because the internet prefers no empty spaces. So that's
right.
important. But use that type of thing. I keep them in months, I keep them in years, but I have a lot of stuff coming through here, a lot of JPEGs. But really what's most important is how do you think? Because when you use your little magnifying glass to search, what's the one word you come up with? So,
Yeah.
that's the way. Are you
Use the
thinking
word,
events
and then
or
I also will use I'll use terms like I've got high res, and I'll have the photo, the original photo. I usually give it a name like shadow box, Lotus shadow box or something like that, and then I'll have Lotus shadow box web,
yeah,
where I'll add web to the end for the one that I've downsized to 800 pixels because I don't need any more than that for sharing on Facebook.
yeah.
Uh,
I do SM a lot for
yes,
different
I do
things.
keep them together, Kim. I do tend to keep
Yep,
them
good
together.
idea. Keep them in the
Um,
same folders, create little
and just don't,
folders.
another thing, when you're trying to look for your image, remember they are date stamped without adding the name. So if I know when I
True.
took a
Yeah.
picture, I can go search by date and
Yep.
find things if I know when I took it. That's
Yep.
always anybody's guess though.
Yeah. Yeah. We all have to call each other and
And then
say,
when I
when did we
send it
do that?
out, if I'm sending a picture out, I usually if it's a juried submission, they're going to have a naming convention they want you to use.
Right.
So you'll
Right.
follow whatever naming convention they request. And if they don't have one, then by God, put your name on it.
Yeah.
So, it's going to be Pam East 1, Pam East 2,
Right. Right.
because I want them to know whose picture it was.
Yep.
I don't want it to get lost on somebody's desk and have it come up and go, I don't know whose picture this is.
Correct.
So,
Another good aha moments we're having here. All right. So you want to
all
do
right,
resizing
I want to
photos
talk
in
about
photo
resizing
room.
in Photo Room. And you can resize, go ahead and, yeah, this is just an intro. You can resize photos in Photoshop Elements, I
Right.
mean, almost any photo manipulation software is going to let you resize your photos.
Right.
And I'm just going to show you how to do it in photo room because it's so slick. I can not only change the size of the photo, I can change the canvas. So, if it was, well, let me go ahead and
And I just want to say, anyone who didn't get all of Pam's the original, the full class, you're gonna freak when you see what she shows you, what she can do in all these different apps, is all I'm saying. It's gonna
yeah,
blow your mind.
it's
All
a
right.
really good class.
Yeah,
So
here's a little bit.
this is really quick. This is photo room, and I'm in there, and I've got the picture, and I click resize, and then I've got a lot of choices. And on this one, you see I've got that 1920 by 1920. I could just click that, but I did custom, and I put in 2000 by 2000. And this picture had been portrait. It was taller than it was wide. And when I resized it, 2000 by 2000, now it's a square, and I can slide that picture up and down in that square to get it positioned correctly. And if you could pause, um, the other thing that you saw, I had the little selection there. You saw 19 by 20 by 1920 was already in there. It saves your custom ones. But if you kept sliding those over, it's got the optimum size for Etsy. It's got the optimum
Oh, that's
size
great.
for a Facebook cover photo. It's got the optimum size
That's great.
for all the social media sites. And so you can just go in and find the one and say, okay, I want this is what Etsy wants. And so I
Right.
click Etsy, it resizes it for Etsy. I'm done. And I can make that picture bigger, smaller in that space. I can move it up and down. I can tilt it. There's lots of things I can do to it. When you're done, say resize it as a copy. Um, so I
Should I
did the
move on?
resize. You can go ahead and move on. Resize as a copy. And then, because I never mess with the original, and then I'm going to save the resized image. And now it's on my phone in my photo library as a
Done.
2000 by 2000 image. And so that was, I just like that. And here's the two files side by side. I showed you earlier, you could just swipe up and see the data. And there's the original one on the left, 12 megapixels, three 3024 by 4038, 1.2 meg. And then now it's down to 4 megapixels. It's 2000 by 2000, and it's 626K.
All right, let's take
So
some questions here. The app, Sarah, is Photo Room. You're gonna want it. Get the
Photo Room
class. It's really
is
good.
the app, and I go over that extensively uh,
In the long version class.
in the long version class. I go over photo room extensively, and I'm already planning a second photo room class next year with tips, tricks, and updates. So we'll be talking about that.
Wait, there
Um,
was one other good question here. Oh, I
yeah,
don't know. Rebecca wants to know, do you like this app better than Canva?
I have played a little bit with Canva. I didn't get into their paid version because I didn't want to pay for um, multiple versions, and so I was limited. But what I liked about Photo Room is it's intuitive. I
I
didn't
agree.
have to think real hard. I didn't have to hunt real hard to figure out how to do things. And when I jumped in and tried to do similar things in Canva, I found it more awkward.
Yeah.
I didn't. It wasn't as instantaneous to me. Photo Room is one of the easiest ones I tried,
With
and I
amazing effects.
looked at Lightroom, and I looked at Pixel Cut, and looked at. I mean, I looked at a whole bunch of them, and this one is just so user friendly.
For
Um,
jewelry, let's talk about too. For everything, for small things that you're
right,
shooting and everything,
but I
with that
am.
caveat.
The caveat is that I'm a jewelry photographer.
Right,
Yeah.
right, right. Um,
Can you add a brand? Yes, you can. And that's one of the tips and tricks I'll be adding in my next classes is adding watermarks and
all
that kind
those
of thing.
goodies. And
Yeah,
now Pat
absolutely.
wants to know, they only have the free version. Do I need to buy the full version? I'm sure you do for all of the.
I need to see what's included, but I went ahead and got the pro. I think you need the pro. Yeah, you do need the pro. You're very limited on what you can do. One of the nice things that I figured out recently was batch processing. I was doing my Etsy site, and I had 75 pieces of jewelry I had to do multiple photographs of, and because I it's not just one picture. I need a picture with gives scale and all of this, and I could upload up to 50 pictures at a time, and it will strip all the backgrounds all at once. And then I
Yeah.
can throw in shadows all at once.
It's a
And
really good AI assistant.
it is a very good AI assistant.
Uh, you
So, and
do
I can
all of your,
resize them all at once.
yeah, it's a very good assistant. Kim wants to know, do you do all your editing on your phone?
I would say I do about 75% on my phone, but I recently started working with the desktop version. And what I found was that I really like doing batch processing on my desktop. And if you get the pro version, you get both. It's not like you have to pay for one or the other. If you get the pro, you get the desktop version and you get the phone version. That's all included. And batch processing is much easier on the desktop. I did all of my background stripping, all of my resizing, adding the shadow, the pictures that look just like what you see up there. I did all of that on the desktop mode. Now, if I want to play with the AI backgrounds, the instant backgrounds, that seemed to work better on my phone.
I'm not
So,
surprised.
so I would go ahead and go back to I do all this stripping, and everything, and I had the pictures, and then I would go back to my phone to make the pretty shot with the colorful AI background that I liked. And just remember, I always want to throw this caveat out there. This is what you want. This white background with a shadow. That's your jury submission photo.
Okay.
Okay? They don't want color and interest in the background. They just want the
Right.
jewelry.
Here's a quick
Um,
quick
but
question from Bonnie.
when you're
Oh, go
selling on
ahead. Sorry.
Etsy, you got to catch people's attention. So I do the
Good
fancy
point.
backgrounds for Etsy.
Good point.
Anyway, go ahead. What was the
Good
next
point.
question?
Bonnie just wanted to know, so what you just did when you changed to the size there and you moved the pendant around, she wants to know, so this cropped the photo at the same time as changing the resolution. You moved it.
Cropping. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So
Yeah.
the minute I make it smaller, I've reduced the resolution.
Yeah.
The minute I make it smaller, I have reduced the resolution, because resolution is the number of pixels. And when I reduce the number of pixels, I reduce the resolution. So resolution is, just think those two numbers that you can see up there, 3024 times 4032. That's the number of pixels in that picture. And that's the resolution. And as soon as I make that 2000 by 2000, that's a smaller number, right? That's 4 million pixels. That's 4 megapixel.
What Pam just
And
pointed out, which is so great, is right there where you can see the information because sometimes you're working, you're like, wait, did I do this one or not? And then right there it'll tell you, nope,
yeah,
it's only 200. You didn't do this one yet. It'll say right there what the size is, which is great to have that as well.
yeah.
All right, so now we're going to look at that picture again, but this was before.
Yeah, so this was before I sent it through photo room. And it was a clear photo to begin with.
Right,
But you want to make the background bright and shiny.
which is what
And
Pam shows in her class. She'll go all
yeah,
into this. I mean,
and
look at
so
that glows.
I improved the lighting.
Yeah,
I stripped out the background. I added that shadow, and it's just a much better photo.
yeah.
So, and that's what you can do when you take my class.
And
And
you
the other
get the
thing
app.
I want you to remember, and that this is I harp on this, is that you cannot make a bad photo into a good photo. You can make a
Good
bad
point.
photo into a mediocre photo, but you do have to get it right in the phone to begin with. And half of this class is, how do I get the photo to begin with before I even start editing, so that you have all that crisp, clear detail.
Yeah. So you have something to really play with that looks good.
Okay.
It's a fabulous class, people. I'm just saying, I know everyone wants that sort of information. And like I said, right now, if you're listening to this in November, the 30% off sale is still going on, which use the coupon code thank you 30, all caps 30, get the class, save that. If you're hearing this afterwards, there is a coupon code if you decide, oh, next week I want to go shopping. We always like to give everyone who shows up 20% off with the coupon code Pixel Perfect. So remember that. And then let's do our
Dun, da, da,
giveaway.
da. We're going to have a giveaway.
Now let, okay, so here's the thing. We're going to give away one of the classes. If we pick your name and you already have the class, you
Misty,
can
you
pick
got a
something else.
typo.
Misty has a typo.
Yes.
What did she write?
She wrote she got the coupon code wrong, but she'll fix it.
All right,
There we
she
go.
will. There we go. Thank you, darling. All right, so we're going to pick something, and then I'm going to show you one other thing that's coming up. So everyone get ready. And my Johnson one. My Johnson,
Maya
you want to put
Johnson.
in your email into our chat box, and you just want a free class.
You can
And we
get my
will
photography class.
get the photography class. If you, for sure, you don't have it, you win the photography class. And you're just going to write to support at crafthouse.com, put your email in there. And we will make sure you get a class in your library to enjoy and learn from. There it is right there, support at craftcast.com. And then, wait, I just wanted to show you. You already bought it? Okay, no problem. You can pick another class. Maybe you want to pick this one. Look at this is this Saturday. And these are ceramic pendants covered with the metal clay paste with all these cute little embellishments. It's adorable. They're beautiful, lightweight. And we even have a kit you can buy with all the pieces. So you don't have to go shopping everywhere for the ceramic pendant and how to do it. So this is really fun. Come on this Saturday, purchase the class with your little discount code. We show how to add the stone. I don't show. Fiona Ingram shows how to add the stone, but it's really fun. And this is using with punches. So if you want to do something with those little paper punches and have little embellishments, great fun. Cute little gifts. So that is coming up. And thank you everyone for coming on. We always like to have fun, and a big round of applause for Ms. Pam East. Um, uh, My Johnson, just write to support at craftcast.com and let Misty know what class you want, and we will take care of that. So thank you, everyone. Have a
Thanks
great
for
evening.
coming.
Thank you for coming. And thanks so much, Pam. You always teach us so much great stuff.
You're very welcome.
Okay, everyone. Have a good evening. Bye bye.